I'm sorry, but you're just not the right fit for this role." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. He had spent 5 years pouring everything he had into Sterling Enterprises, arriving early, staying late, and taking on extra responsibilities that weren't even in his job description. He had mentored new hires, streamlined processes, and built relationships with clients who now refused to work with anyone but him. And yet, here he was, standing in front of his manager, Linda Carmichael, hearing those same words she had used on him for the past 2 years. Marcus took a deep breath, trying to steady the frustration boiling inside him. "Linda, with all due respect, I've been in this department longer than anyone else. My performance reviews have been outstanding. I deserve this promotion." Linda leaned back in her chair, a smug smirk playing at the corner of her lips. "Marcus, it's not just about performance. Leadership requires a certain image, a certain presence." Marcus clenched his jaw. He knew exactly what she meant. He had watched as less qualified employees, who all happened to be white, got promoted over him time and time again. But today, he wasn't going to let it slide. "If this isn't about my work, then what is it about?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Linda sighed dramatically, as if the conversation exhausted her. "Look, Marcus, you're talented, but I just don't think our clients will respond well to someone like you in a leadership position." That was it. The mask was off. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. Marcus took a step back, his heart pounding. He knew in that moment he was done waiting for permission. He would find another way to rise. And Linda Carmichael had no idea what was coming next. Marcus walked out of Linda's office, his fists clenched, his heart racing. The humiliation burned in his chest, but beneath it was something even stronger. Determination. "She thinks she can keep me down forever?" he muttered under his breath. He needed a plan. He had built too many connections, learned too much about this business, and worked too hard to let one racist manager dictate his future. That evening, he sat at his desk in his tiny apartment, staring at his laptop screen. A notification popped up, an email from one of his biggest clients, Henderson Tech. "Marcus, I was expecting to see you at the meeting today. Sterling Enterprises is slipping without your leadership. Let me know if you're available for a chat." Marcus stared at the email for a long moment. If even the client saw his worth, why was he still stuck under someone like Linda? A thought crept into his mind, one he had never dared consider before. What if he didn't need Sterling Enterprises at all? The next morning, Marcus called up an old friend, Derek Lewis, a former colleague who had left Sterling to start his own business. "Derek, remember when we talked about starting something together?" Derek chuckled. "You serious, man? You finally had enough of them passing you over?" "More than enough. I'm ready. Let's build something better." Derek didn't hesitate. "I'm in. Let's make some waves." Marcus smiled for the first time in days. He wasn't just walking away from Linda's injustice. He was about to rise higher than she ever imagined. And soon, she was going to regret every single time she looked down on him. For the next few months, Marcus barely slept. He poured everything into building his new company, Lux Tech Solutions, alongside Derek. Every late night, every setback, and every challenge only fueled his fire. Meanwhile, at Sterling Enterprises, Linda was growing more frustrated. Sales were slipping, clients were restless, and upper management was putting pressure on her. "What's happening to our accounts?" she barked at her assistant one morning. "We lost Henderson Tech, and now Greenfield Corp is pulling out?" Her assistant hesitated. "Well, ma'am, both of those clients were handled by Marcus before he left." Linda scoffed. "So he was just an employee, replaceable." Actually, he wasn't. Linda's stomach twisted as she checked her emails. More clients were leaving, many citing a better opportunity elsewhere. And then, the real blow came. Lux Tech Solutions had officially launched, and its client list included half of Sterling's former accounts. Marcus hadn't just moved on, he had become her competition. Meanwhile, Marcus was thriving. His company wasn't just successful, it was redefining the industry. Clients praised the personal attention, innovation, and leadership that he and Derek brought to the table. But the real moment of reckoning was coming. Sterling Enterprises was in trouble, and upper management had made a desperate decision. They were putting the company up for sale. Marcus heard the news from a contact inside the company. Linda must be losing it. Derek said with a smirk. She deserves it, Marcus replied, but deep down, he knew his journey wasn't complete yet. He had one final move to make. The day the official sale was announced, Marcus walked into the bidding room with a calm, collected confidence. And when Linda saw his face among the buyers, her world crumbled. Linda felt her breath hitch as she locked eyes with Marcus. He wasn't just a bidder, he was the top contender. She had spent years belittling him, undermining his achievements and refusing to recognize his potential. Now he stood before her, not as an employee begging for a raise, but as a man about to own the company that once rejected him. The boardroom was silent as Marcus took his seat at the bidding table. "Mr. Bennett, are you officially making an offer?" one of the executives asked. Marcus leaned forward, his voice calm and controlled. "Yes, LuxTech Solutions is prepared to acquire Sterling Enterprises." Linda's jaw clenched. She couldn't believe this was happening. Her fate now rested in the hands of the man she once dismissed. One of the senior board members cleared his throat. "We have reviewed your offer, Mr. Bennett, and given Sterling's recent financial troubles, it is one of the strongest bids on the table." Marcus nodded. "I built many of these client relationships. I know exactly what this company needs to recover. Under LuxTech, Sterling Enterprises can thrive again." Linda's mind raced. She had spent years climbing the corporate ladder, sacrificing everything to reach the top, and now in mere moments, she was about to lose it all, to him. She couldn't take it anymore. "This is absurd," she burst out, slamming her hands on the table. "We can't let an ex-employee just waltz in and—" "Linda," one of the senior executives cut her off. "Your input is no longer needed. Mr. Bennett has made his bid." Marcus watched as Linda's face turned pale. She was powerless now. The room fell into discussion, but the outcome was inevitable. Sterling Enterprises was officially sold to LuxTech Solutions, and Marcus Bennett was now Linda's boss. Linda sat frozen as reality sank in. Marcus Bennett was now in charge. As the meeting adjourned, board members filed out, murmuring among themselves. Linda, still in shock, remained seated until only she and Marcus were left in the room. He leaned back in his chair, watching her. Not with arrogance, not with revenge, just quiet authority. "You look surprised, Linda." His voice was steady, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. She scoffed, crossing her arms. "So what now? You humiliate me? Fire me on the spot?" Marcus shook his head. "No, that would be too easy." Linda frowned. "Then what?" Marcus stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city skyline. "You spent years blocking my promotions, making sure I never got ahead. But see, the thing about power? It shifts, and today it shifted to me." Linda swallowed hard. "You want me to beg for my job?" Marcus turned to her, his expression unreadable. "No, I don't want you to beg. I want you to understand." Linda opened her mouth to argue, but Marcus held up a hand. "For years, I worked twice as hard to prove myself while you dismissed me without a second thought. But now, I'm giving you a choice." He leaned on the table, locking eyes with her. "You can leave with your severance, or you can stay and learn what real leadership looks like under my management." Linda's pride screamed at her to walk out, but she knew the truth. She had nowhere else to go. After a long pause, she exhaled sharply. "I'll stay." Marcus nodded. "Then be ready, because this time it's not about what you think I deserve, it's about what I've earned." Justice had been served, but revenge was never the goal. Growth was. 6 months later, the office had transformed under Marcus's leadership. Diversity was celebrated, promotions were earned, and respect was given to those who worked for it. Linda, once the feared and untouchable manager, now worked under Marcus's direct supervision. The irony wasn't lost on her, nor was the lesson. One afternoon, as she reviewed reports at her desk, Marcus approached. "Linda, got a minute?" he asked. She nodded, setting her pen down. "I've been watching your work. You're adjusting well." She exhaled, almost laughing at the absurdity of it all. "Didn't have much of a choice, did I?" Marcus smirked. "No, but growth is still a choice, and you've made the right one." Linda met his gaze. There was no resentment, no bitterness, just mutual understanding. "I never said it before, Marcus, but I should have." She paused. "I was wrong about you." Marcus gave a small nod. "I know, but sometimes people don't change until they have to." He turned to leave, then added, "Keep up the good work, Linda." As he walked away, she let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. For the first time in her career, she wasn't working in fear. She was working to be better. And that was the true power shift.